In the heart of England, back in the year 1156, a story began that would ripple through time, a tale of a boy named Edwin. His start in life was far from a fairy tale. Born out of wedlock, a cloud of uncertainty hung over his very existence. His father was a ghost, a name never spoken, a face never seen, lost to the unforgiving tides of time. For young Edwin, the concept of a father was just an empty space, a question without an answer. He grew up with this void, this piece of his own story missing, but he didn't let it define him. Instead, he learned to find his own light, his own path in a world that often seemed dim. As a boy, Edwin was different. While other children played games of knights and kings, he was often found wandering the quiet lanes of his small town, observing the world with an old soul's eyes. He saw the cycles of life and death playing out all around him, in the wilting flowers and the chirping birds. He understood, even then, that every ending was just a part of a larger story. This quiet contemplation and deep empathy shaped the man he would become. He didn't crave grand adventures or royal courts. He found meaning in the simple, profound moments of everyday life. By the time he reached the age of 22, Edwin had found his calling, though it was one many would shy away from. He became the town's undertaker. It was a solemn profession, one that required a steady hand and an even steadier heart. In a time when death was an ever-present neighbor, Edwin brought a sense of dignity and peace to the final goodbyes. He treated every soul with the same gentle respect, whether they were a wealthy merchant or a humble farmer. He saw his work not as a job dealing with death, but as a service to the living, helping them navigate their grief and find closure. He became a quiet pillar of his community, a comforting presence in their darkest hours. Life in the small town was mostly peaceful, a rhythmic dance of seasons and festivals. But the world outside was turbulent, and one day that turbulence crashed upon their shores. The sounds of battle, the clash of steel, and the cries of men echoed from the fields just beyond the town. Fear gripped the hearts of the townsfolk as a brutal conflict erupted close to their homes. Edwin, the quiet undertaker, watched as wounded soldiers and terrified villagers stumbled back from the fray. His heart ached, not just for the fallen, but for the living who were caught in the crossfire. He knew he wasn't a knight. He had never wielded a sword in combat or worn a suit of shining armor. His tools were for mending the final chapter of life, not for taking it. Yet, as he saw the chaos and the suffering, something inside him stirred. He couldn't just stand by. He grabbed his medical supplies, the same ones he used to prepare the departed, and ran towards the sound of the battle, not away from it. He wasn't going to fight. He was going to heal. On the edge of the battlefield, a scene of pure horror unfolded. But Edwin didn't see the horror. He saw people who needed help. Dodging stray arrows and the chaos of retreating soldiers, he moved from one fallen man to another. He bound wounds with a calm precision that defied the madness around him. He offered water to the thirsty, spoke words of comfort to the dying, and guided the walking wounded towards the relative safety of the town. His bravery wasn't loud or aggressive. It was a quiet, determined force of compassion. He wasn't fighting an enemy army. He was fighting against despair itself. He organized other villagers, turning the town's main hall into a makeshift infirmary. He showed them how to clean wounds and make bandages from torn cloth. He worked tirelessly, without a thought for his own safety, his undertaker's hands now saving lives instead of preparing them for the grave. He was a beacon of hope in a field of darkness. The soldiers, who had seen him as just the town's somber undertaker, now looked at him with awe and respect. He wasn't a warrior, but he had the heart of a true hero. When the dust settled and the battle was over, the story of the undertaker who ran into danger to save others began to spread. It was told in taverns, whispered in marketplaces, and carried by travelers to distant lands. People were captivated by the tale of this ordinary man who had performed extraordinary acts of courage. Edwin didn't seek fame or reward. In fact, he was humbled by the attention and quickly returned to his quiet life, tending to the town's needs. But his story had already taken on a life of its own. He became more than just Edwin the Undertaker. He became a symbol. A symbol of how courage isn't always about wielding a sword, but about extending a hand. A symbol of how even in the face of death and destruction, the most powerful weapon is compassion. He became a legend. People would travel to his small town just to catch a glimpse of the man who had faced a battlefield armed only with kindness. They would ask him for his secret, for the source of his strength. And Edwin, with a gentle smile that seemed to hold a deep well of understanding, would always share the same simple, yet profound piece of wisdom. It was a saying he had crafted for himself long ago, a mantra born from a childhood spent looking for light in the shadows. He would look them in the eye and say, the world can be a dark place, and we all have our own shadows to face. But within each of us, there is a light, a spark of goodness and strength. Don't let the darkness put it out. No matter what happens, no matter how bleak things seem, find that light inside you and let it shine on. Shine on. These two words became his legacy. They were passed from person to person, a message of enduring hope. For the boy who never knew his father, who grew up with an empty space in his life, he had filled that void not with bitterness, but with a light so bright it illuminated the lives of everyone he met. He showed them that you do and need a grand lineage or a noble birth to make a difference. All you need is a good heart and the courage to let your own light shine on, even and especially in the darkest of times. And so, the legend of Edwin, the Undertaker who became a hero, was never forgotten, a timeless reminder to always, always shine on. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales that inspire. Until next time, take care and shine on.